Hodgie, are Richmond back?
Well, after Friday night, they've given me a little bit more confidence. I feel what Damien Hardwick was talking about at the start when he got in Hopper, got in Taranto, that he believed that their style was good enough to win finals. What I saw Friday night, yes. If you look through their the contested work in and around, Samson Ryan going into the ruck, he's been plus 15 from centre bounce clearances this year, and when he's not in there, Richmond are 18th in total as far as in the league with comparison to others. So getting him into the ruck, they got on top of Geelong in the middle, and then my big question for them was how were they going to kick goals? And the first people you look at on the list was Martin, Cotchin and Riewoldt, the three most experienced players in their team. They just need to repeat that week in, week out until Lynch gets back. But I like their forward half pressure.
Do you get your runners out when Cotchin had kicked his third?
When I saw him run around like that, I'm like, here we go. It's good for the old boys to show they can kick a goal.
It was great. It was good to see.
But what also about the Geelong defence, his third goal, that left foot snap, he ran up, in and around by about four blokes. Not one person touched him. So if they're going to let him do that, of course he's going to kick goals. I was struggling with the defence of Geelong at times on Friday night.
So I see it differently, and that wasn't going to be my first observation, but I'll make it my first. So I think the performance was admirable, and they dug deep to produce it, and they got themselves up for a big Friday night game. It was a trademark performance. I agree with everything you said. The pressure was back, 10 goals off turnover. I just don't know if it's sustainable. So clearly Geelong's injuries were a factor, and not saying Richmond don't have a couple of key players out, but they always seem to. 9 out of the best 20 of the Cats. They kicked 2-7 in the first quarter, Hodgie. They dominated contested ball, and I think Richmond lose that game 8 out of 10 times. You're never going to get 3 goals from Cotchin again for the rest of his career.
Well, if you don't man up on him and don't be physical, you're probably going to get it a few times. But what I did like was that, as you said, the forward half pressure. I saw him do that against West Coast North Melbourne the week before, and I thought, it was West Coast the week before, I think. But I was thinking because it was one of those bottom 3 teams that everyone plays into form. Carlton did it the week before against West Coast. And I thought, can they put that forward half pressure to use against a quality team? And they did that. They ticked a lot of boxes, but I was sitting there thinking, is this what Dimmer was talking about? This is what Dimmer says, that once we get the blokes back, Dusty looked energetic again.
Great.
And for the first part of the first few games this year, you sort of sat there and thought that the will of him to try and turn a game, it wasn't where it was 3 or 4 years ago. That changed. I saw they had the look in his eye, what he was able to do, the celebration in big times in that last quarter when he kicked those goals. I'm sitting there going, if he's found that and he's got that back, he brings so many people with him because of how good he is, but also the passion that he shows.
40 metres on his own, Dusty. Funny how that works.
How's that happen?
Not sure. But it was, you could see it from the grandstand.
Modern defence. Let's leave a future AFL legend with 40 metres of space inside 50. That's modern defence.
Yeah, no, it was extraordinary. I think it also just highlighted how important Broad is to their whole setup.
Yep, we got the 8.
But geez, he wasn't even playing on Jeremy Cameron half the time. Jeremy Cameron just kicked it to him. That was a really interesting matchup.
The thing that also got me as well is how the game could have turned with Hawkins and Bolter. Hawkins started on fire. We're sitting here going, if Bolter can't man up Hawkins, what can they do? That free kick that was called when he pushed him high was a free kick. He would have had 3 in the first 15 minutes. They would have had to make a change. Whether they dropped Broad off Cameron, put a spare, took him away from the forward half to try and cover Hawkins for a little bit. I thought that free kick and then the effort from Bolter to fight back when he had his back against the wall, I thought that was a big turning point in the game for them as well.
All right, observation number 2 now. The most unlikely player in the league emerged as a genuine Mark of the Year contender. Patrick Parnell is 177 centimetres. He's 71 kilograms. And Hodgie, he had never taken a contested mark in his career prior to sitting on someone's head yesterday at the Adelaide Oval. Unbelievable.
Yeah, well, he's just got to give little fellas a bit of a go. We always tell them to play their roles. They should be staying at the feet of the big men. Let the big boys do their work. But I can tell you what, he's going to be going at every mark he possibly can from now on. He's got every reason to as well. If he can do that at standing at that height, then good on him.
What would the odds have been? I'm not a betting person.
It was on Jack Higgins, wasn't it? How tall's Jack Higgins? There's 2 midgets
about-
going up. He just sat on him.
About the same. The odds for him to take Mark of the Year at the start of the year, unbelievable.
The other bloke who took a good one is Tracy, and thank goodness they've started to play him. His mark up in Sydney was a ripper.
Yeah, their forwards worked really well for Freo. As you said, Amiss and Jackson kicked 3 and Schultz was 4 and Dick Tracy was great as well. Observation number 3. Is Aiden Core in the conversation as the league's most overpaid player? He is the 300th rated player in the league by Champion Data, and I'm not sure whether he's ever influenced the result. He got 5 years. Now, someone told me, Sammy, 5 years at 700 yesterday. I looked around, it said 5 years at 550. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle, but whatever it is,
It's 5 years.
I know it's 5 years, but I'm more worried about the figure. It's too much. Like reversing free kicks at the top of the goal square for a senior player and then getting yourself suspended when you've got 6 injuries on the day and you
Yep.
need that. I thought that was one of the more ordinary things that I've seen this year. And you've got to be careful with your recruiting. And you can chuck Griffin Logan to that for observation number 3A. 5 years, massive money. It is laughable, honestly. So who makes these decisions? And there is no accountability for when they get them wrong.
But in saying that, if you're playing in that defence, you've got that much ball coming in, you're not going to have a real impact.
No, but
the
he,
amount of
he
inside
punched
50s
someone off the ball when the opposition had
mate,
the
everyone's
ball.
had a brain-
and he
everyone's had a
and he
brain
got
fade
a
and
week.
done that,
Yeah,
Kane.
well, I don't know if you can afford to have a brain fade like that.
You'd
Mate,
have
when,
good-
they're down, when,
yeah.
when they're down by 50, it's not going to matter by turning one around.
But it
is
matters when you get suspended and you're out.
I understand that, but I reckon you're being a bit hard. A
5
bloke
years?
into a new club. To get people away from their home, you have to offer them a decent sized deal,
Gotta
and
get the
that's
right
the issue.
ones, though.
I understand that, but
Well,
they need
Griffin
some
Logue's a
people
good
to go.
player. Griffin Logue's a good
You
acquisition,
sure?
isn't he?
You
I'm
don't
pretty
know,
sure.
You don't know
Yeah.
how good they're going to be. Well, when Brisbane went and got Charlie Cameron, there's no way you could have pictured that
But
he was going to
kicked
be as
5
good
in
as.
a prelim. Like he
Yeah,
had
once.
stood up in a big
Once.
game, and you can
Yeah,
see
it's
the
very hard for
athletic
defenders
attributes
to
that he's
kick
got.
5 at a prelim. But what I'm saying is, you've got to give them a chance. You've got to bring people in to show that, hang on, this club is worth getting there. And if these two blokes that they got in, like, I don't mind Logue. I reckon Logue is a very, very good player, and he's playing in a team that's really struggling and trying to develop. But I reckon you've got to give him a little bit more than 9 games before you start
No, I've given
going too hard.
Aiden Core 2.5 years. Like I've been watching this closely for a long time, and it's not working out that well for North. But I appreciate the defence, Hodgie, and I can rely on you for that. And I look forward to the debate every Monday. It's a challenge, and you make a good case. I will give you that. Whilst we are on North Melbourne, my man Jason Horne-Francis has now had 53 clearances for the year. 10 more than North's leading clearance player, Luke Davies-Uniacke. And that's just an observation. I don't need any comment on that. I just wanted to observe that he's had 10 more clearances than the next best player at North Melbourne.
Why did you have to bring up North Melbourne?
Well,
he's
he
a
used
Port
to
Adelaide
play
player,
there, and they could have kept him, and they didn't.
He
and
wanted
now
to
they're
leave.
missing him.
They tried to keep him happy and leave because he wanted to go home. Why did you need to bring up North Melbourne?
I think it is a reasonable observation that he, as a 19-year-old, has 10 more clearances than the next best North Melbourne player.
Because
And I
he's a
think
very
that
good
is
player.
Reasonable, 100%.
and
he is.
they've got a draft pick
also-
coming up this year's draft. They got a really good draft pick from last year.
There's also the
that
fact
they
he's
used.
played 2 more games than Luke Davies-Uniacke as well, if you want to run it by the
But
numbers.
there's other midfielders at North.
Yeah, but you
the
mentioned
next best.
Yeah, you
So
mentioned
I
Luke
mentioned, I
Davies,
mentioned the next
Yeah.
best.
which was Luke Davies-Uniacke.
So you could mention Ben Cunnington, you could mention Will Power, you could mention Will Phillips.
Ben
you
Cunnington's
could
not
mention
playing at the moment.
Jai Simpson.
Yeah.
You could mention any of them.
I looked up the dictionary about an hour ago to look for the definition of obsessive compulsive. Your photo was there, Kane.
You wouldn't have thought that's
Was it beside antagonising as well,
Would
or-
any of you have known that? I think as a 19-year-old, that's a reasonable observation to make.
Well, it's an observation that he's got impact.
having a good
Like,
season. Yeah.
As far as, and his ball use go, I know we had a bit of a go at him at Horne-Francis last week, but he's the number 1 rated ball user going inside forward 50 for them to retain the ball. Like he's a quality player, and that's why he went number 1. I just don't see the reason why you brought in North Melbourne here.
Well, he used to play there, and they could have had him. He was contracted, and they let him go, and he's got 10 more clearances than the next. But it was just an observation.
How
You don't
come
need to
you
shoot.
didn't raise Cause former team or Logue's former team?
Well, because they're not performing. Like they're not actually performing. I think their former teams would be pretty happy that they're gone. All right, observation number 5. It was just I didn't need any comment, but anyway, you broke the rules here, Hodgie, and that's okay as well. Hold off on measuring Tim English for his All-Australian blazer. Sean Darcy is emerging, Jared. 18
Yep.
possessions, 44 hitouts, 9 clearances, 8 inside 50s, and 7
Odor.
score involvements.
He was stiff last year.
He'd be a big blazer, wouldn't
Oh,
he?
massive blazer.
Can
Yeah.
you fit both of them in?
His numbers last year were excellent. English's numbers were better than anybody's, but he didn't play enough games and didn't have enough support around the table. But you're right, they're the two at the moment.
John Longmire spoke after the game, Hodgie, about the clearances in the second quarter. I sat through his media conference and he said,
Yep.
we just got smashed.
He said they had 2 clearances and a
Yeah,
half. He gave his side credit for 2 clearances
He did.
in a whole half of football.
He said he's never seen numbers like it before. And that is surprising for Sydney because, like to Jared's point, we can talk about their injuries, but their midfield their personnel is pretty good.
I was lucky enough to see the Darcy when Bulldogs played Fremantle over there on the Friday night. It was the two best ruckmen in the competition, and I thought English won it that night. But there's a fair argument for both of them because Darcy is a ripping. He's a consistent player. He got tired towards the end, and English was able to run off on him. But I guess you asked us the question. The question's to you: can you put both of them in the All Australian team, Kane?
Well, you could.
Yeah,
you could.
Yeah,
You
of course
could.
you can.
Would
You
you?
couldn't have him as a resting forward.
No, I guess English. He's pretty versatile. Like, I mean, Jackson and Darcy are playing in the same side. Could Tim English do what Luke Jackson is doing? I would say probably yes. He's a pretty capable forward. He's not as athletic and mobile as what Luke Jackson is, but
He's pretty handy when
I think
he
could
sticks
play.
his hand up.
And behind the ball as well,
Yep.
he's pretty good. So I think you could.
Haven't we done that in the past where Ruckman's been named on the bench?
I think it's rare, but yeah, it has been
Certainly
done.
been
Nick Nat
done
days?
plenty of times.
Nick Nat, Max Gawn days?
Cox
Or
and
Co-
Nat Nui
Yep.
were in the same team.
Got a couple more for you. Connor Rosie and Zach Butters were picks 5 and 11 in the 2018 draft. Are they the best midfield duo in the competition under the age of 24? And I understand you don't all have birth certificates in front of you for the
Give
rest
me
of
the give me the next two.
Rowell and
Oh,
Anderson.
Gold Coast. I was going to say
Right.
Gold Coast would be
Yeah.
a fair fight there.
I reckon there'd be a good,
Good battle,
level
yeah.
of competition between those. But they're probably the two young midfield duos in the competition doing big things. Zach Butters I think he's fourth in the coaches' votes now. Snuck up on a few people, I reckon.
Yeah, no, he's flying.
This is going to be a good challenge for those blokes you just mentioned this Friday night. Where
Yeah.
you've got the young one, Rosie Butters, but then they're coming up against Oliver, Petraka,
I know,
Viney.
and no
a lot of
ruckman,
these-
Hodgie.
No ruckman. So they've been fighting that hard without a ruckman. So it's going to be a really good battle. Melbourne have quality ruckman, but also got quality midfielders. So for those blokes you just mentioned, we're going to see how they go against
Warner
the
and-
other number one.
Warner and
number one
Goulden
midfield.
are coming,
Good mention. Yeah, that definitely in the conversation.
but unfortunately they're not winning games, so
No, but
you
they're
don't get the
still-
same.
Oh, Goulden's having a blinder of a
He's
year.
having a great year.
Yeah, mate, who would you take? It's not. I'm not saying I would take Butters and Rosie. I'm just saying it's a good debate to have. At risk
Would you
of
be happy if they were second?
at risk of Jared accusing me of having obsessive compulsive
You're not going to get it.
disorder.
Oh, no.
It's not
Leave
Toronto.
it. Cancel it, Kane.
Do you think I should cancel it, or do you think I should go with
No,
it?
I want you to go, with
for
it.
it. Go
I think
for
I've got
it.
to go with it because I just want to highlight that
I'm scared, though.
I don't say things for the sake of it as much as I don't need to defend myself. But
You don't need to lie to us, Kane.
after Tim Taranto had only 2 effective kicks and 8 clangers on Friday night, he has dropped from the 121st rated player in the game to 141st. I just wanted to highlight that, and that is an observation that once again doesn't need any comment. It's just a fact. It's just a cold hard fact that I thought I'd highlight on a Monday afternoon. Hodgie, over to you.
I was hoping I could highlight the fact that he got coaches' votes, but he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't. No coaching votes.
He did have 12 tackles in that
Already
game,
checked
though.
there.
12 tackles, still had 28 touches.
12 touches.
Had some
Two
clearances.
effective, 2 effective kicks. Hodgie, over to you. You've spoken about Richmond, but you also wanted to speak about the Bombers and how they're tracking because they've lost 4 in a row.
Yeah, I think people sort of look back and if you haven't watched their games, you see the 4 losses and you go, oh, they're obviously struggling. They've gone back to what they were doing. But the 4 losses that they've had the last few weeks have been against quality teams. They've played 4 of the top 6 teams. And the attitude and the game style that they started with on Thursday night, I loved it. I thought they were they had the spare that went behind the ball. They were trying to clog up the middle, really try to take Brisbane's game away from them. And at halftime of the game, you could see it in the Brisbane crowd that they were worried. They were worried about what Essendon were doing to the Lions, but Lions being the team that we sort of know they are, they responded, they changed a few things, but I'm actually really impressed with Essendon. Scotty's gone in there, and we heard Merritt say a couple of weeks ago that we focused on offense about a week before round 1. Which shows that they've had a clear focus on trying to defend and improve. And what I've seen, they've improved a lot. Yes, they've lost 4 in a row, but it's been against 4 pretty quality teams.
And you wanted to highlight their fixture as well, which is noted that they will play West Coast twice and North twice, isn't it, for the rest of the year?
When you go through the top 6, then they beat Melbourne as well early in the year, who was sitting second. But they're going to come against a quality team. A few teams coming up, they should win.
28
And that's
points
where
in front of Collingwood on Anzac Day.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's the one.
and fell down. But
pushed
we
Port
sort of
Adelaide
know
as well.
Collingwood are always going to do that. Port Adelaide were very ineffective in front
Yeah.
of goal, which sort of kept them in the game. But I've just like what I've seen with Essendon, and sometimes you don't give credit to a team that are having a crack. They've changed a lot. Players are giving everything for Scott. And hopefully over the next few weeks we can see the hard work they've put in that can result in a few wins.
Bombers fans, you're comfortable with where they sit. The Harcourt's open line 1300 736 736. Are Brisbane the real deal? Hodgie, your old mob.
Well, a couple of years ago, what happened to them up until half time, I couldn't see them coming back. They're a team that when they got on a roll, they're very hard to stop. But when things didn't go their way, they found it tough finding the momentum or changing the tide and get the momentum back in their way. So what we've learnt so far that they've been able to mature. They can get him in at half time. Fagan can get him in at half time, and they can change. They can tweak things. They've got a good flexibility with their list now with players that can either go forward or back. With Rayner and a few others, he's forward now. But I'm liking what I'm seeing. I know it's only early. It's round 9, but some of the pressure they've been put under, but also been able to be composed and handle, I've actually really liked.
The Blues are going to be a hot topic. They already have been today. Hodgie, what's your perspective on how they're going?
Having 10 points to half time is a concern. Their centre forward connection and the polish to finish off. It must make the Carlton supporters that frustrated. Like their effort and endeavour, like what they dished up in the first half against Brisbane Lions last week, I didn't mind. I actually thought they came ready to play, but they came in against a top 4 team when they lifted to a next level. Carlton couldn't go with them. And then obviously the Lions ran away with it. And it was almost the same on the weekend. Their contested stuff in and under, you can't fold them with that. But it's just the connection. Some of the shots at goal that I saw, the players snapping around the corner, ballying the ball, missing it by a long way. All the hard work you put into to get in front of goal and miss so many easy shots and to score 10 points in the first half. And then we saw in the third quarter what they can do. They can move the ball quick. They can score. They can play exciting football. There's just no consistency there.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
It must be heartbreaking in the coach's room. They're creating enough opportunities, but they can't kick the ball for them.
No, and that's the point about their ball use is that when you are a structured team and everyone is on the same page, your ball use can look so good, like Collingwood's can, but then the Blues just break down so badly.
I'll ask you three guys who've all played at the highest level of the game. Why do you think clubs are reluctant to swallow their pride and bring in some outside help, particularly in the modern times, for a key forward like Harry Mackay?
I think it can be confusing. Yeah, when you're getting mixed messages. And I think the assistant coaches that are there full time get a bit protective of it as well. And then
it's a niche, it's a specialist.
Soft cap issues would play a factor as well. Hodgie, I'm not sure if you ever worked with the great Ben Perkins at Hawthorn. Blazing Ben.
Yeah.
But
we had him down there.
He's a ripper, and he listens to our show. And
he actually plays it. He plays at my golf club up in Brisbane.
So, what's your experience with external help, expert goal kickers like Blazing Ben?
I think it's there. If people come in and they say there's mixed messages and there's not enough salary, you make room for it. And if you bring someone into the club, give them the time and the space to spend with the player. Don't let anyone else talk to them. If you find the right person to go in there and they think they can fix them and you have trust in them, let him go, because you see what's happening to Carlton. All Voss has been put under that much pressure because his team can't kick goals. They're doing a lot of work to get the ball inside 50. It's either the centre forward connection to their forwards or else it's actually finishing the work. That's the most important part. If you look at Geelong and Richmond on Friday night, Geelong were in the game. They couldn't kick straight. Richmond kicked straight, win the game. It's the difference between winning and losing, and it's the difference between someone getting sacked or keeping a job.
Yep.
I don't think Harry's got a problem technically with his around the corner kick, because I suspect at training he kicks 7, 8, 9 out of 10. But it's in the moment. He's clearly got a technical issue with drop punts on the left-hand side of the goals, because his foot goes across the ball, he slices it, he doesn't know what he's doing. But there's a difference between technique and being able to execute.
I think we saw the first moments of frustration from Michael Voss,
100%.
because it's
Absolutely.
a weekly question. Harry around the body, how do you feel about it? We back the player in. He's the one he's practicing it. Finally on the weekend, it was, well, if that's how you're going to go about it, then you need to nail it. You need to be able to execute it. So I thought that was the first little crack that we've seen.
If you're going to do it, you'd want to be good at it.
That's the word, yeah.
Pretty
exactly.
much. And
yeah.
you're right. It's a good observation. He was frustrated. Hodgie, Buddy Franklin, and his form held goalless for the second time. Well, rarely, if ever, that happens 2 games in a row. What would you do with him?
I'd throw him at the wing. I'd put him up the ground. You've got someone like McDonald. I know he's doing a test whether he's playing this week, but people are sort of saying, "Oh, Buddy's always going to get the best defender." That's probably why he's not kicking. He's not a young buck anymore. The agility at ground level probably not as good as it used to be. Why couldn't you play him up on the wing?
Is that being said? I mean, he's not 28 anymore. With the agility and the athleticism, is he capable of covering that much ground on a wing?
You don't have to play him there for the whole game. You think of how many different areas that he can help. He's a big body. He's physical, so he can sit at the back of the stoppage if anyone wants to come. If you've got a Horn Francis coming through the front of the stoppage, Buddy's not going to let him get away. He's a physical bloke. He can tackle. If you're kicking out from fullback or you need a release kick outside forward 50 and you've got Buddy on a 190-centimetre wingman, they're playing North Melbourne this week. If he's on Scott on the wing, why wouldn't you kick it up to? It just gives them somewhere different to look at. And people sort of sit there and go, he's 35, 36. What? Play him there for 10 or 15 minutes. He loses his tag. He knows how to push forward. If he gets the ball within 60 metres, he can have a shot. It just takes a little bit of pressure off him kicking goals.
I think whatever the answer, he's got to do more work. He's got to get more mobile because at the moment he's in the goal square. He's moving up the ground at times, but not up and back and not making the defence sort of question where he's going.
Yeah, so they got North this week, then they play Carlton, so 2 very winnable games. Whilst they're in the finals contention, then you just play them and you continue going. I guess once it is mathematically not possible, then that's the decision.
Well, they need him at the moment.
How you send him off in the right way.
That's what I'm saying. They're going to win the game this week against North Melbourne. And their midfield is that good. So why don't you play him up there, give him a little bit of run, see how he likes it, see if he can understand the patterns. He's played there before with Hawthorn. Something different.